Welcome to the After the Show Movie Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Ascully and Cidtalk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Good afternoon, Cidtalk. How are you doing? You're looking very well today.
You looking at me?
No.
Thanks.
That's how I can confidently say that you're looking very well.
Oh my gosh. Listen to you.
Yes.
I'll take it. Thank you. And how are you?
I'm great. Can you see me?
I can't. You're over there.
Yeah, we sit back to back while recording this podcast. I'll give you a mental image of what happens. We sit back to back. We don't look at each other at all. We avoid eye contact.
At all cost.
Yes. And,
we look at each other the whole rest of the time of life. So
we just stare at each other whenever we're not doing a podcast.
Yeah. So this is like, I get to look at something else, like The Sims, which is none of this is before the after the show discussion, by the way. Before the after the show discussion included you fixing my chair, and that leads to another story from the week where our chairs were going down. Like, the little whatever was broken, and you'd sit in the chair and go down. And you found a kit this week to fix it, and it's fixed. And that was the before or the after the show.
Let me say, I didn't know this kit existed. And I will recommend it to anybody whose office chair is slipping downwards. Just type in Amazon, my office chair is slipping downwards. That's what I actually typed, not a name of a product. And it came up with this little clamp thing. It's perfect.
Perfect. So far, we did it like 20 minutes ago, but...
Yeah, well, I'm at a decent height, and I'm not like... I feel like I was at the... when you're in nursery school and you're at the lunch table. That's what it felt like last... All right, it's Saturday, April the 13th. This is After the Show 834. We look at a new movie every week, and this week's movie is Lisa Frankenstein. It's a 2024 release, out now on Blu-ray, streaming services, PG-13 from our friends at Universal. They sent us a digital code to review. Cidtalk, can you give us the synopsis of the movie? Lisa Frankenstein.
Teenage angst and a dead guy.
I'll give you the one off the box.
Is that right?
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair. All right, here's the one off the box. A coming-of-age love story about a teenager and her crush, who happens to be a corpse. After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts.
That's not actually accurate at all. There's little tidbits that's not accurate. It wasn't a series of events. Lightning struck a grave. Okay, let's just get into it. So, the story is, I enjoyed this movie very much. It was very fun. I laughed a lot. It was a really good time. It has a lot of flaws. I can love something and the experience of a thing, and also see and roll my eyes a few times and be like, I'm left with the same questions I'm left with on movies like Night Swim. However, when you dress it up in the 80s outfits,
1989,
with
this
teenage
movie.
Angst and fun music and a quirky, weird attitude, then I forgive the flaws, right? So the story is this girl is different. Her mother was tragically murdered before, and then her dad married a lady who's terrible, and now she likes to go to the old abandoned cemetery and kind of has a dreamy thing about death, right? Because, what's the point of living if your mom can just be murdered? And so she's all angsty about that. She has a crush on a living boy.
Yes.
Who's at school. People are mean to her. People are very vile in this movie. Like, her stepmom's real snotty and bitchy and stuff. And then the other kids. So she's kind of beaten down. And then lightning strikes the tomb of a young man who died, what looks like maybe 100, 200 years ago. 1837. Is that what was on his tomb?
I think so, yes.
Right. And voila, we all know what Frankenstein means. Throw a little electricity on a dead guy and ba-ba-boom, you've got a living guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He comes into her life, and then she doesn't have a crush on him.
No, she doesn't at
until
first,
the end, and then she's like, that was a little bit part that
it's
was
not like
rough.
it's not like what's it called? Weird Science, like they bring this woman in like a Frankenstein thing and they're in love with her.
Correct.
No, this girl's like, no, I'm not really into you. You're not my type, she says at the beginning.
Yeah, she's still into the dude at school, and this guy, just because of circumstance, including murders.
Yeah.
And chopping body parts off of other people to sew onto his body.
Now, this sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It sounds crazy. That's why it's so fun. It is wackadoodle.
And it's a PG-13.
But that description disappoints me.
Right.
I like mine better. Teen angst with whatever I said. Death.
Did you forget what you said?
I forgot what I said.
Yeah. Well, that's...
They're listening. They know what I said. Mine's better, regardless.
Right. So Lisa Frankenstein, it's written by Diablo Cody, so it has a certain ring to it. We've seen... or we've not seen, we've listened to a lot of her dialogue over the years, and I can almost spot it a mile off. I can spot Tarantino's dialogue a mile off. This Diablo Cody seems to have cornered the market on angsty teen dialogue, right?
I don't know about that. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think she's a bit shallow in what the things that she writes a lot of times, but it's superficially got a little bit of a kick, and you're like, oh, I recognize that as a snotty...
It's cynical.
I was a snotty teenager, and you probably were semi-snotty as a teenager. And I get it. It's just that it's very,
it's heightened, turned up.
Yeah. So I don't know that she's cornered anything. She just trims away all the extra stuff, which is good. It's good.
But it makes me laugh, her dialogue. And there were so many lines in this movie that made me laugh. And generally at comedies, I'm a bit blank.
You are? I was surprised you laughed.
Yeah. I can't even remember the lines, but there was just some funny sprinkling throughout as well. It was like every minute or so, there was something funny. So that means for me, watching a comedy, because this is a comedy, even though the way we described it is it's like some bloodbath horror movie. It's actually a comedy,
correct?
Right? Like a sweet comedy. Is it sweet? I was trying to think.
I don't think it is.
No,
actually.
I don't think it is sweet. Is it at all?
No.
Even though you'll smile and feel for the characters in moments, but then you have to realize these characters have done some things that are terrible.
Absolutely.
And how can I be on their side?
It's not like, okay, so we go back. I am from the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s.
Hi.
So, I'm very old. I'm ancient. I'm from the 1900s. So movies like Heathers, right? So there's one where these people do terrible things. And yet there's something, you get the idea that he's going to get his comeuppance, right? I mean, you just, because he's gnarly and...
I mean, he's a corpse.
No, not this time. In Heathers.
Oh, in Heathers, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's just a dude with Winona Ryder. And if you haven't seen Heathers, then check it out. But you get the feeling the whole time, as you did with a lot of 80s movies, that, you know, they're not going to walk away into the sunset happily ever after. You felt like, oh, this guy's going to get in big trouble, right?
Yeah.
This one is more like, I wasn't sure there was any lesson to be learned or gained, and that's not a requirement. I'm not preachy when it comes to movies, have to have a moral tale or an ethical dilemma, but there was kind of nothing.
Yeah, when you think back at it, there's nobody to root for, really.
True, that's a good way to put it, actually.
Even though you are kind of rooting for Lisa, but then you're like, why? Because she's becoming
the monster.
Yes.
This is what I thought about halfway through. I'm like, oh, I get it. She's the creepy one, because now she's a little bit like, oh. What's happening is she's gone from being like nerdy girl who's rejected by everyone. Then she starts wearing the hot goth clothes to school, drinking alcohol for breakfast, which is hilarious when you see that. I'm like that. I love that scene. And she's got like a newfound confidence, but you can't really stem it back to any of this. Like, you can't say, well, she's more confident because they've done away with her evil stepmother. Like, that isn't there's no direct link there. There's no direct link into her feeling like he loves her for who she is or is enamored with her. None of that. It's like she just went from being mousy, as we have learned to call it, to like, here I am. So I feel like that was a little misstep, because I want to know clearly, either visually or somebody saying it, what is causing her to feel. You can't just guess. I don't think that's fair.
Is it when the bolt of lightning struck? Is that what changed everything? Like her attitude?
She had no knowledge of that until he came to her house. So no, I think nothing did it. It was just not written well.
Right.
To make it so like we're going, oh, so now she feels accepted and loved and heard. Like it kind of scoots over any of that. She just goes from one thing to the other.
There's also a tanning bed involved.
I love that tanning bed.
Yeah.
I love tanning beds.
It's
anyway.
like, what was it called? Like the turn back time tanning bed. It had a name like, something of life.
Yes.
Yeah. So she keeps putting the dead guy in the tanning bed.
Because when she lays in it originally, her stepsister lays in the tanning bed. And then when our girl lays in it, she gets an electrical shock. And then what she realizes is to keep bringing his dead tissue to life, like his dead finger, his
Stick
dead
him
ear.
in the bed. Yeah.
Put him in the bed, and that starts to rejuvenate him. So he becomes more alive looking. In the beginning, he's just a dead corpse looking zombie guy.
Yeah.
Which I love that. I love that the tanning bed is the key to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all crazy. And
it is wackadoodle, which is what I love. I've said wackadoodle already. I love it.
Let's say spoilers.
Okay.
There's a scene in this movie where a penis gets cut off. It's in slow motion. There's a song playing, an 80s song. I can't remember which one it is at the moment. Is it I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore? REO
I
Speedwagon.
think so, yes. Spoiler alert, though, you don't see the penis getting cut off at all.
No, but that's what's happening. There's blood flying in the air. It's in slow motion, and it's the weirdest, like, horror scene. Like, it's horrible what's happening, but there's something that makes you smile about it. It's weird.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah,
so
100%.
That's where this movie operates. It's in this weird, you look at it going, why am I happy at this moment? What is this?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why am I getting pleasure out of this very bizarre situation?
Yeah. It took me by surprise quite a few times, where the plot was going. Like, it was kind of all over the place. I was like, oh shit, now somebody else is dead. Because people die in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't beat around the bush. People actually die. Innocent people who did nothing.
I mean, we can say that the guy who tried to make her have sex with him, and what we saw was him putting his hand on a boob and her hand on his crotch, and then his words told you, because as she's leaving the room, thankfully, he's saying, you can't, you got to finish what you started, and you can't lead a guy on, which makes him a dickhead, right?
Right, but not a death dickhead. Not.
Well,
Maybe
I'm not
he
too
should.
upset about it, but maybe that's a thing about me. I'm not too upset about him getting, he became the hand donor because our dead guy needed a hand.
Yeah, he needs various body parts, so we kill people to get the parts.
Accidentally.
No, not
accidentally.
No, not accidentally. Totally on purpose.
It just happens to happen.
Yeah.
You just have to watch it. Like, stop listening to this. Go get it and go watch it.
And then it's like, there's like some heartbreaking scenes in this movie. What was breaking my heart was her sister, Lisa Frankenstein.
Her stepsister.
She has a stepsister. Her stepsister has basically lost a family member, and Lisa did it, right?
Right.
And it's not revealed. She just thinks a mum went to a conference and like nobody knows where she is. But Lisa knows what happened to her. And it's heartbreaking because this girl's so in love with her mother, and you can see it.
Well, she did tell 911 that her mother was a bitch.
She did. She's a bitch, but she loves her.
Of course.
But this mother's dead because Lisa needed, what did she need from her?
He wanted her ear. Yeah.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking seeing this girl breaking down. She's like, the part in the car.
Yeah.
And then Lisa's like, oh God.
See, that's a good, it's a really interesting character they've made there, because normally the stepsister, who is considered like the popular, attractive cheerleader, turns out to be like the evil, complete bitch girl. But this girl was not. She made comments that are sort of like, you felt passive aggressive any much.
She wasn't the typical though.
She was not. She actually cared about Lisa, but in that sort of like, well, you could find a boy who likes you, like a cute boy with really bad acne, maybe, you know, like that guy. But she actually did go to defend her at the party. She wanted to get her involved in things, but I like that they kind of put a twist on her.
Yeah.
That you, in the end, like you're just saying, you sympathize with this young lady because she's kind of got nothing to do with any of it.
No.
And she's going to feel the dad, I mean, you think about it, his first wife is murdered and now his other wife is...
Yeah, I felt a bit of a dad too.
He was kind of nothing, which I find interesting when they make a male character like the dad from the 80s just vapid. I think they did that in Stranger Things.
Right? Just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a dad. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to the cast of this movie. Just to finish off the movie there. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny. And yes, it has its flaws. I can say that too. But I was laughing and I had a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
So that's good.
All of that.
Let's get on to the cast. Catherine Newton plays Lisa Frankenstein. Well, she's not Lisa Frankenstein, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. The name of the movie is misleading.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I get what they were going for. Like, it's the vibe of a Frankenstein movie. So what do you think of Catherine?
Her and the stepsister are the best things of the movie. They're both excellent.
Now, Catherine Newton is from Ant-Man and the Wasp. She was their daughter. I had to look her up. I was like, I've seen her face before. But I thought she has some really good comic timing.
Absolutely.
And that walk that she does, it was having me in stitches. You know when she walked into the principal's office?
With her hands behind her?
Yeah.
I think that is from Bride of Frankenstein.
Right.
If you watch Bride of Frankenstein, like original from the 30s,
right,
you will see that her hands are like in this very contorted, like she's constantly being electrocuted. And that's what I identified from her walk immediately. I loved it.
Very funny. Certain mannerisms that she had that she did at the right time where I was like, yeah, she's good. Cole Sprouse plays the creature. And Cole Sprouse is the guy from The Sweet Life, that, Nickelodeon show.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his brother were in that. So what did you think of him here? And he barely has any talking.
Yeah, he doesn't have to talk. It's just that he seems right all the time. I mean, I have no issues with him at all.
I kept thinking of Johnny Depp all the time.
I did too.
Yeah, well, Johnny Depp at his age. Yeah. But that wasn't a bad thing because he was right for what it was. We've got Lisa Sobrano as Taffy, and she was the stepsister.
Yeah, she was really good.
She was breaking my heart, so I understood. I was like, well, she's doing something because I'm really attached to her.
And she's good just throughout. Her sweetness combined with a little bit of like learned snotty behavior. Like,
yeah. She's a cheerleader.
I'm not giving her an excuse. I'm just saying, as a character, you're like, oh, I get it.
When you see her in the cheerleader outfit and you're like, oh, she's going to be one of those, but she's not that.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is good. Carla Gugino plays Janet. We all know this lady. I saw her first in Sin City. Was that it?
Was that your first? She was also in Pauly Shore's movie, back in the day.
Right. I think Sin City was the first time I was introduced to her. I think she's awesome, and she was awesome in this too.
Yes. She's the very terrible, snotty stepmother.
Yeah, and she really went for it.
Yeah.
And there was that gross scene where she was eating some fruit.
I didn't find that gross. It was just a worm.
Gross.
I think you're supposed to think it's
You've seen too
gross.
much I'm a Celebrity, get me out of it.
Yeah, didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I was like, just eat the worm if you're all into fitness and protein and stuff.
Yeah, and the dad's called Joe Crest as Dale, and like you say, he was a dad.
Yeah, he didn't really, no, he was nothing.
Yeah, that kind of like, oh, there's dad, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is directed by Zelda Williams, but written by Diablo Cody. Zelda Williams is Robin Williams' daughter. She has directed another movie before this, but this is the first big Hollywood movie. What do you think?
I think it looks good. It gave me good vibes because I enjoyed it. It's just that it's missing a lot of storytelling.
I think it's well crafted though as a movie.
Yeah, I think it's got definitely 80s feeling of sort of like that shallow economical movie making. You know what I mean? Like you go from this to that to the other very quickly. You understand immediately when you walk into the hallway of a high school what you're in for. Like it's telling you the story like the whole world is. It's just that if you're watching back your dailies and you're putting together the story, I feel like part of what's happening here, and it happens often in movies, in story, and I'm not a story snob, but somehow when they've all know the story and she's talked to Diablo Cody about it and all that kind of stuff, when they translate it onto the final product is missing a lot.
Right.
They know everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've discussed how she goes from being the mousy young woman to being confident. We just don't see it.
You think they might be some deleted scenes or something.
No. Just think that they fill all that in. And so when they've done a scene, like cut the scenes together, it makes sense to them fully. They've got the whole story in their minds. They've talked about it. They've probably done scribbles about it. And yet it doesn't translate when you're finally watching. That's what it feels like. Just something's missing a little bit from here to there. But I feel like she got really good performances because I loved the young ladies, the kind of dumb 80s teenage girls who come up and they're the friends. They did exactly what those girls did in the 80s movies and 90s movies. You know what I mean? Like the peripheral characters. So she conveyed what she wanted, I guess. I mean, I wasn't there. She could have had someone else there, but I mean, she's a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. She got them to be, that's the best part of the movie, are the people and how they are in their parts. So I feel like that is definitely a director's triumph.
IMDB reviews, what are those, Cidtalk?
Those are reviews on a website, http://www.imdb.com, that you go to and find reviews of people who don't like the movie that we're watching. Right. And then you kind of make fun of them with a funny voice.
I'll give you the first guy. The first guy says, terrible movie. There isn't a single positive in this movie. Everything is cheap and bad. I'm sure the positive ratings are fake, as only a small child could find this garbage entertaining. So that's that guy.
That's that guy.
Second guy says, worst movie I've ever seen. I got a chance to see this movie before it came out in the theaters. It was so bad, I mean really bad. The movie is not even worth it. The plot was poorly written, the acting is terrible, and it doesn't flow together. I learned that it cost $10 million. What did they do with that money? Did they waste it on drugs? So there's that guy.
There's that guy. Or gal. We don't know.
And the third person says, biggest piece of trash I've ever seen.
Oh, my.
Seriously, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. They all say the same thing, don't they, these people?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't think a movie could be this bad. What an absolute piece of garbage. See you later, trash.
Took the time of their life just to say, look at this piece of garbage.
Yeah, and trash. So those are the people who didn't like this movie, but we are not amongst those people. So we're going to give this movie a score. I'm going to give Lisa Frankenstein a 7 out of 10.
I think 7.7 seems right for me.
I could watch this again and still I would enjoy it, I think.
I think your score would go up probably as you watch it more times.
I feel like it might go up. I feel like it might be something like, Beetlejuice, when I first watched it. I was like, And then...
What?
Well, I wasn't...
Why am I married to you?
And then as I watched it, I was like, this might be the greatest film ever.
This is news to me, everyone. That he had bad feelings about Beetle. Are you kidding me?
Not bad, but like, oh, okay.
Even if you were neutral, there's something... this isn't something you told me 25 years ago when we first met. So I'm going to have to reassess my entire quarter of a century of life with you.
Thank you. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
And I'm saying 7 point something.
All right. So thank you to Universal. Next week, we are looking at the movie Rebel Moon number 2, part 2, The Scargiver.
Oh, dear.
And if you remember, we weren't that up on the first one.
We didn't love it.
So hopefully the second one makes us feel better about the first part.
Make us feel better about life in general.
Yes. Movie recommendations. I am going with some movies that this reminds me of in a weird way. Reanimator.
Okay.
Just for the Frankenstein / body horror element. And Edward Scissorhands, because every time I looked at this guy as this corpse, I was like, there's Edward Scissorhands.
Did you say body horror?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
That's actually a genre, body horror.
Okay. Again, I'm reevaluating my whole life here today.
Mr. David Cronenberg is right in that sphere. The Fly is very body horror.
Okay.
Yeah. Reanimator, Edward Scissorhands.
What other horror is there? I guess mental horror? Gore horror?
Yeah.
I mean, what?
There's all kinds of horror.
See, now I'm going to have to research this.
Yeah.
And my recommendations are coming from the 20th century, which is the 1900s. So from 1900 to 1999, these are movies that are tagged in some way or another as action and or adventure. And I have seen them. It doesn't mean I remember them or I am in any way advocating for their quality.
No endorsements for these?
No endorsements at all. I mean, every once in a while there might be one, but I don't know about this week. So we have Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan.
Yes.
So back in the day, before we hit the big zombie wave and the vampire wave and then the superhero wave, we were doing legend wave. So Tarzan, there were like 3 Tarzan movies, weren't there, in like a short period of time?
There was, yeah. Varying degrees of quality.
And yes, and the next movie, St. Helens, will tell you that there was also a wave of natural disaster movies. So St. Helens was when the St. Helens erupted, many years ago.
I don't even know that movie. Never heard of it.
Oh, right. Well, it's about the volcano that erupted here in America. It was, I forget the year, but there was also a wave of those natural disaster like Dante's Peak and Volcano.
I'm all for natural disaster movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then White Squall, which is a little bit one of those creepy ones where you've got some crazy shit going on a boat with a dude and some teenage boys. And then a tragedy happens with the water and then question marks. It was like that kind of unsettling horror. Then we have Whitewater Summer, also about a guy taking a mom and a kid, I think. Wasn't it Kevin Bacon taking him into the...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He was creepy. Yeah. And then Flight of the Phoenix, which was from the 60s, and I'd forgotten what it was, I'll be honest. I looked it up.
They made a remake of it that we reviewed.
Oh, did we? Well, I've seen the original because I think it was on Svengoolie, maybe, but I don't know. It
the
was
remake
one of those.
that we reviewed had Dennis Quaid in it.
Right. And the original is a plane goes down like in the desert, and then there's this guy who can engineer and build a plane out of the wreckage. And then there's like subterfuge and spying shit and wartime stuff. It's actually quite good. It's very well. It's one of those of the 60s where it's like epic. You just got to settle in and get your food and your snacks and don't watch it on your phone.
Yes.
Do what you want. I was going to say Jersey Mike's, but that's not a movie. That's what's for supper.
Ascully stuff. I've been playing some games this week, but I didn't want to talk about those. I wanted to talk about a new TV show that we started watching.
Yeah.
It's video game related.
Yeah, and I've heard of it. I've seen it.
It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Fallout, based on the best-selling video game series.
Aye.
You have no connection to the series at all, do you?
I do not.
I do, because I've obviously played the games. So whenever that happens, you get roped into watching it. Because I want to watch it.
Or watching epic games like The Last of Us while you play them. So I am invested one way or another in the video game world.
But you've never even watched me play Fallout.
And when we talk about video games, your version of video games is very different from mine. I am currently looking at The Sims while I'm building a house for 2 people that we watch on YouTube because I love creating real people in The Sims. See, I'm really weird. That's how I like to play video games. Or solitaire.
I mean, I like all genres of games pretty much. I'll try everything.
You don't love the building like this.
No, I would say that Minecraft, any of that kind of stuff.
I've never been interested in Minecraft.
No. But you might like it if you got into it.
I don't think I would. It's too vast.
Right. Anyway, back on topic. Fallout, the TV show on Amazon Prime, by the creators of Westworld. That instantly had me like, oh, my ears pricked up. It was like a year ago when they mentioned it. I was like, oh, so they've finished doing Westworld. Now they're going off to make Fallout. I bet that's kind of good. Anyway, we've watched the first 4 episodes. There's 8. What do you think?
Well, what do you think? You're the one who's in love with it.
It is really fantastic. I can't say anything bad about it. It's got everything that I want in a show like this. And it's got that level of quality that Westworld has. Like there's a level of like they've gone to some trouble.
They're committed
to make it, the world building of it and how everything looks is really on the nail, What
we've talked about recently, and I'm not trying to be like a snot bag here, but in the world, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I'm noticing, but the way that they accomplish a thing, we were talking about standards, right? So you set a standard for how you like a thing to get done. So if I'm doing whatever we're doing, right? If you fix my chair earlier, the simplest thing.
Right.
If you fix it with a certain level of standard, like right now, I'm still sitting in it. It's still working. It isn't crotchety. It isn't weird. I don't have duct tape and shit all over it. And I don't have a stick holding me up, right? It actually solved the problem. If I want to do a lower standard, then maybe it wouldn't be fixed as good. And there'd be like other weirdness involved, right? And that would be fine for some people and not for others. Now, that's a very simple, rudimentary example. But when you're talking about crafting things I think that standards of things seem to slip a little bit.
Right.
You know?
And clearly they have not in this show.
Exactly. And you look at the quality, and I think of every single person, not every person on that whole show is going to love their job, but somewhere along the way, the people looking at the quality of the costumes, the sets, every detail of every set, including like grungy glass doors on old freezers and coolers. I've been noticing everything where that didn't have to be there. Like the really grungy look of that one place where she just ended up, with coolers with weirdness in them.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at everything like somebody cared. Somebody took the time. They organized themselves. They had a plan. And then the end product, the person's watching it and going, yes, that is the standard I expected. You don't get that in everything.
No. And what I was reading, this is by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. They're the creators of Westworld. And Jonathan Nolan is also the brother of Christopher Nolan. So they're very talented, those Nolan people.
Mm.
I was like, well, why is he making Fallout? Is it because it kind of similar to Westworld? Well, it's not that. He is a giant fan of Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
He is a video gamer. He's played it since it originally came out. He still plays it to this day. And when he noticed in Hollywood, oh, they're going to be making a Fallout thing, he just put himself forward and happened to get it. So,
and you're glad about that.
Well, you can tell that somebody who likes Fallout is making this show.
True.
Because, I mean, maybe you can't because you don't know Fallout. But there are so many winks and nods to Fallout. I think the biggest thing I like about it is it's not using the story from the games at all. It's just using the world. And they've crafted their own story and characters. So for me, who knows everything about Fallout, it's still a surprise. Because I don't know where this is going.
I got you.
And I think that might be the best way to make an adaptation of something. I mean, it wouldn't have worked for The Last of Us. They already had a great story, didn't they? Just like it's very focused, The Last of Us. They just kind of made the video game into a thing, but it turned out good.
Right, but you could also take that world
and make a new story.
Just like Walking Dead. I'm not giving Walking Dead any credit for quality, but some of the stories on the side, like I liked The World End, whatever, End of the World one, with the kids, the teenage kids or the college kids instead.
I can't remember its name. It was so
like
convoluted.
They're in the world and it does crisscross. And then the Daryl one was a little bit better. Or any of the Star Wars offshoots, any Star Trek variations, you can fight with me if you want. I don't give a shit what you think, but I love Star Wars. I mean, sorry. I do love Star Wars. That's down here. And I really love Star Trek. So really love is up above it. And I don't even care what it is. You can give me anything as long as there's something mention of Starfleet or the timeline, anything. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the world and that I want to hear another story. So I think that's what they've done, right? They've just taken like the existence of what's happened in the world, which is nuclear bombs, and then kind of run with that.
And it's excellent, and I can't wait to watch another episode tonight. We've already said what's for dinner, so Cidtalk, what is your advice?
What's for dinner is Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, we already said it. So
I know,
what's your
but they
advice?
might have forgotten. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has not.
My advice is gonna irritate some people, so be prepared. And it's not advice, it's an observation and an irritant. Just today, we had people come to our door, ring our doorbell, which I find rude unless you're giving us a delivery or you're telling us something's wrong with our house. I don't like people randomly coming. And I'm old. I'm 56. I'm from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I don't give a shit what anybody says. People from our generation also don't like it when people just ring the doorbell. I don't like it. I think it's rude. And these were people passing out a little church pamphlet. You and I are not churchy or religious in any way whatsoever.
You're preaching to the wrong choir, mister.
Yeah, well, and I don't mind if you want to spread your thing. I spread my own whatever I think about the world and everything as well. I don't care about that part. That's fine. But you left a card on my door that says, follow the old paths. Right? So that's their theme, I guess.
Right.
Which means go back to the olden ways, go back to olden times, go back to the old way we approached everything. No, that's bullshit. You know what that led to? Racism, misogyny, war, destruction, greed, all the things that, I mean, you can say we're inherently terrible as humans. That's fine. But the old paths of punishment, you either behave right or you get punished for all eternity and all that shit. I mean, that didn't lead to us being anything better than we could, right? We could be much better. So the idea of old paths, I get it. Some things that we've learned as humans from all our tens and hundreds of thousands of years of becoming what we are, you learn it, right? You learn about being decent to another human. Like, I wouldn't punch you. I've been punched. I don't like it. It's painful. It's damaging. I won't do that to you because I know it's damaging. I don't care about being rewarded for that behavior. I don't care about punishment. If I wanted to punch someone for some reason, I wouldn't give a shit about punishment. I'd just do it. The punishment and the reward are not the issue. It's about me learning about being a human. And that's what we've learned over however long we've been around. You learn how to be decent to humans, how to survive, how to grow things, how to make things, how to build things. I don't need threats of punishment or reward and all that shit. That is not a path that I think is fruitful or productive or healthy. I think it teaches people to lie and be even more deceptive, to be honest. That's me being honest. So yeah, old paths, I'll pick and choose a few of the little blooms that have happened on those paths, but do not try to guide me down or lead me up the old path because I already think you're kind of full of shit. So there you go.
Nicely said.
That
well
was
done.
not advice. That was me on my high horse, and that is fine.
That's fine.
Got it out of my system.
Ascully.com, that's the place you can go to for this podcast and any information about this podcast. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Where else are we? We're on everywhere, aren't we? Threads. We're on all of the place. Oh, TikTok. We're actually on TikTok.
Well, it's not the full thing. It's just
like a clip from the podcast each week. On
a link and
TikTok.
a clip.
So,
which I'm opposed to, but I'm not modern, so.
I'm trying to get with the program.
I got you.
And we're also on email, ascully@ascully.com. Don't email Cidtalk. She doesn't want your email.
No.
We're on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube, anywhere that podcasts are available. And let me sign off here by saying, stay classy. Diablo Cody, I'll listen to some more of your dialogue in the next movie you write.
And I'm going to say think for yourself, because if you're not doing it, someone's doing it for you.